All right, thank you. All right, so we're calling this meeting of the Districts Committee to order. And the first order of business is for us to elect or appoint a chair. And probably we can't appoint Eric Holt as chair because then we wouldn't be able to run the meeting.
Let's do that.
That would serve him right,
Yeah.
though, not being
Yeah.
here.
I know.
Now you're chair.
I think we should do that and just go, okay, well, we'll facilitate this one time. Huh.
Would either of you want to volunteer to chair this meeting? Or would you like me to do it?
I think that, I would love for you to do it actually, because I think that, and especially particularly around this subject, I think that you're a real kind of a subject matter expert. And so I would really appreciate it if you would do that.
I will second that.
Okay, I guess I will third it. So I am the chair of this committee for this meeting. And we can revisit this when we have our fourth member, depending on where this meeting turns out. So what we are to do, and I lost the email that had the agenda of what I think we needed to do. Oh, that's because I'm in the wrong folder. That doesn't it. That isn't it. All right, so what we want to do is to see if we've received any written public comment, discuss our function and mission, discuss options related to our function, anything for the good of the order, and then next meeting and adjournment. So I am going to share my screen because the first order of business. All right, so how big is this Word document showing up on your screen? Is it showing up on your screen?
It's fine because you can pinch it and make it go out. Yeah.
I don't know why it shows so small because I've got a small window and I don't know how to make it bigger.
You should be able to zoom in to the document itself.
Yeah, I don't know how to.
Down on your bottom right, I think. Is that a zoom? I don't know.
Well, let me try.
There you go, right there.
Whoa. Now how big is it?
Let me see. I'm trying to see if it's good for anyone watching the recording. Let me zoom all the way out. I think that should be readable for someone watching the recording. I think.
Because for me, it's taking up almost my whole screen.
Yeah.
It's good on my side.
All right. So these are the provisions in the charter related to districts. The first one talks about the voters of each of 4 districts shall nominate and elect 1 council member to represent their district. The 5th member shall be nominated and elected by members of the entire county. If we go to 5 districts, this last sentence basically comes out. And this would change to 5. So that would be the first change to get to 5 districts. The next one is under organization, that's why I asked if we had a chair committee, because this first organization part, or section A, or part A, would change. And
I agree.
essentially,
I agree that they're very intertwined, and so that probably would just be stricken, right?
yeah, it would have to be, because I know we talked about language. The council shall elect one of its members as chair of the council, but I'm not, was it 2 years?
I'm not sure, but then I looked at, the information that was sent out about other charters,
Mm-hmm.
and they seems to be like the majority is that they only do it for a year. And I don't think we actually came to a decision about 2 years, or we, or
I
I don't
think this would be
I don't
good
remember.
in our report on Wednesday, because I think it'll spur the discussion. And you're right, the more I look at the other charters, the more it looks like they do this on an annual, maybe not necessarily rotating, but an annual process to elect a chair. The question, well, the concern I would have is you could elect, I'm assuming that if you elect somebody as chair, that they would be serving a full term at the time that they're chair, rather than a partial term or finishing somebody else's term. But I think we need to flag this, because it is something that comes out of the district. So essentially it falls out.
So maybe you could just put a little note to be discussed, specifics.
Guess I need a C in front of hair. There we go. All right. I don't see.
And I
Well,
think that
I don't.
we started to have a discussion around, or at least there was some discussion around the duties of the chair. And
Yeah, and I think
and we
that
didn't really
one,
get far.
and that's why I was asking the question. I think if we do not have a subcommittee looking at the chair or the language of the chair, it's something that's probably going to need to be set up subsequent to what we're doing, because this is not in our purview.
There
Okay.
is in the meetings from the week before last an ad hoc council chair position subcommittee. So there
Okay.
is a committee. I just don't know if they.
Let me see if I can find those meeting minutes. Is
that
that,
would
which meeting was that?
have been in the April 28th meeting.
I know that they talked about like things like removing the chair from the obligation of being on uh, commissions and attending, and removing some of that language.
Let's see. Oh, this was minutes of the April 21st meeting I'm looking at, so I need to go to our May 5th. Whoops, I didn't copy down the minutes. All right, hold on a second. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I'm going to pull up the March 5th meeting, which would have the minutes from the April 8th meeting.
Do you see it there, Dorothy? I mean, if it's there, then maybe we should just kind of highlight this and say this is covered by another subcommittee.
Well,
But,
we have crossover Holtz on both of those committees.
oh, good, good.
So.
So he can kind of like bring them into, like,
Mhm.
if there's crossover on things that we should consider
Yeah.
as together as a,
Let me share this.
who's on that committee? It's Holt and I think Kelsey?
Anderson, Lasher, Potter, and Lotta.
Oh, okay.
So I think what we can do is, I haven't seen that committee meeting has gotten scheduled yet. But we can finish our work and then forward that markup to them,
Mhm.
noting that they have some work to do. We gave them some homework.
Can you also share with them your research on other charters where, most of them are 1-year terms? And because
Yes.
I know they were, yeah.
Hi, commissioners.
Yes.
The council chair position subcommittee met this morning, or at
We
noon
did.
today.
Okay. Oh, all right. Do you know what they ended up with, or if they had any language proposals?
I don't know what they ended up with, but I do know that, or I believe they're coming back to the full commission on Wednesday with a few things. I'm just not 100% sure what they were.
Do you know who they elected as chair?
I believe Kelsey Potter.
All right. So what I can do is after we're done here, I will forward our markups and kind of meeting summary to Kelsey Potter, and then let her introduce as part of her report as far as the chair is concerned.
That's great. I'm sure she'll appreciate that.
All right. Elections and districts was the other place where this comes in. The language in the charter has the initial council districts are set forth in Appendix A. I can see a change here would be getting rid of initial. I don't know what to do about the district maps or the redistricting committee or plan. I wasn't quite sure if either of these are in our purview.
Dorothy,
Because
do you remember there was discussion around redistricting and how to, make it a nonpartisan group positions?
Yeah, I think that we decided we weren't going to touch this until after the election this year.
yeah,
So that
To
might,
see if we even get the positions approved to be nonpartisan,
right.
to even determine if we wanted to touch the redistricting. It's very complicated and difficult to even consider how to make it nonpartisan. And
So
have
this
it,
would be something that we would consider maybe for 2022?
yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Or even the next charter review. I mean,
Okay.
it's super complicated.
Now we
Okay.
are going to need to talk about Greg Kimsey in the elections office sent a document to us through, I believe, Kim Harless, and they had some issues with the districting schedule that's in the current charter and what is required under their work both the GIS department and the elections department, as well as what's under statute. So I think we're going to need some direction. I think this redistricting is out of our committee's purview. But it is something that I guess the question is, how do we set up a map of 5 districts? Because the map that we have, that I sent around, was generated by the GIS Assessors Department back in 2014 for the freeholders. If we are going forward with a ballot measure to go to 5 districts, I believe we would need to have those districts, the map and the precincts in those districts attached to that ballot measure, because that map with the current districts and precincts was attached to this charter when it was voted on in 2014.
So Chuck, why would we do the same thing that the initial freeholders did and ask the GIS to come to give it to provide us with a map of 5 districts?
Thank you. I'm glad you asked.
Well,
That's what I was hoping we would decide to do, that we would make that request.
I mean, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, we should just follow the same protocol that they used for the charter initially. But we're also, I mean, we have the advantage that it is a redistricting year, that maybe we can just tap in to the committee.
Well, the redistricting is basically you need to work with the districts already approved, either in law or by vote. What I don't know is if we put forward 5 districts on this November's ballot and it gets approved, how do we do this, since it will be redistricting? And 2022, the chair and it was 2 other positions are up for re-election. So that I'm not sure what the effective date would be. I'm not sure how the logistics would work out. But it is a good question to ask.
I have a question about that. Why would it be advantageous to hook up with the redistricting committee? Why would that be a better way to? Maybe I'm not just understanding it completely.
Well,
Why would that be better than the
if it's
GIS?
if it's approved in November to add a 5th district, then it's going to be the redistricting committee that's working this year that's going to have to put in that 5th district. So then instead of just redividing the 4 districts, they're going to have to actually create a 5th district also.
So I think it's a legal question.
Yeah.
Because the part of it is, I believe we have to have some type of a district proposal attached to the ballot measure. But then if there's a redistricting committee, do we approve it? Do we take it to the voters and have them approve it in form, but let the redistricting committee actually be the one responsible for creating the 5 districts? It's almost a catch-22.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're going to have to, if it's approved anyways, create the 5th district. So do we just, I mean, what did they do? Like, what is the process? Other than I know that they like hire someone to actually draw the districts out. That's like their.
So okay, so I'm trying to understand this. So when does the redistricting committee meet?
That's a good
Uh,
question. I think
Yeah,
it, that
and let me
they've,
see if I can find that
it's,
email.
yeah,
Because
it's
the
in,
way I see it is the charter would be where we would say, this is what, and put it to the vote of the people.
Mhm.
This is what the citizens of Clark County want. They want 5 districts. And so then that would guide the redistricting committee on what they're going to do and what they're going to work on. And otherwise, they're going to, like I think you just said, Chuck, is they're just going to work on 4 districts and redistricting those 4 districts. So I don't see how it, what we do, if we make that, and unless you're saying that they meet before November and work on 4 districts before November, before that vote on redistricting is there. Otherwise, if they meet after November, then we've already given them the citizens, or the people of Vancouver have already given them Clark County have already given them a direction on where they want to go, which is 5 districts. Does
I'm looking
that
at,
make sense?
let me share this email because I'm actually more confused by the email than I'm helped.
Yeah. Are you talking about Greg Kimsey's?
Yes.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk around, precincts and I just assume that conversation is the conversation that you have with the redistricting committee. Like when the charter says, like, we would like 5 districts, then the district committee would be the ones that would be making those decisions around precincts and making sure that, and those boundary lines are, and
Yeah. Now I was trying to share and I just screwed up everything. So I think this is the window I want to share. All right. So this
he says
is
2022 in February is when the redistricting plan is normally started in that memorandum at the bottom.
Yeah, the
So
redistricting
by that
plan is
time, they would
normally in
already,
effect 30 days after the beginning of the legislative session of the year after the state receives the census data. And I think they're planning to receive the detailed census tract data this year. So that would put, yes, February 8th, 2022 is when they would convene the state redistricting committee.
so if we already had like it on the ballot in 2021 that we wanted 5 districts, and they would have some guidance on what we wanted to. That's the way I'm kind of understanding this email
Yeah,
from Greg Kenzie. It's kind of, it's kind of
so
okay.
we
Well,
just kind of like, we just have to put together like a map with what 5 districts might look like. That seems,
I
I don't
think,
know.
and the one that I sent around was the one that
Mhm.
was prepared in 2014. And since 2014, there's been a huge amount of growth around the county. So I mean, it gives a prototype of what it could look like, but I would imagine it would be a little, shifted outward because of the population growth. But I do like the question of asking GIS and the elections office to prepare an updated version of that.
Mhm.
Um,
And then
to see what it
they
looks like.
prepared that map the first time.
Yes, the GIS,
what does
which
GIS
is
stand for?
Geographic Information System, they're
Okay.
a division of the assessor's office.
Okay, so they
Um,
have populations, they
yeah,
are able to get,
they have population down to the census tract level,
okay,
or actually the precinct level, because they need to adjust precinct boundaries on an annual basis, uh, because they're under law, they need to keep precincts to
1250, I think.
1250. And since 2014, there's been quite a few precincts added in order for them to keep that no more than 1250 in place. So
So, yeah,
yeah,
so I really agree, like, you should ask them to do another.
all right.
And then if we have something on the ballot, it would be going, we are going to be redistricting you're just voting on whether you want precinct, you have 5 districts or 4 districts. That's what you're voting on. And then we could put, with the appendix, districts that will be attached in the appendix A where you have it, following redistricting in 2022, Does that
This is all so weird because it's so like dependent, right, on
Mhm.
the change from a countywide chair to a chair elected by the council. Because if the voters approve a 5th district, but not a chair elected by the council, then we could end up with an even number of people, which means we could end up with tie votes all the time.
Well, that's why I think we need to tie the language together. We can't
Yeah.
create a conflict with our ballot measure like that. And so it would probably be a composite measure to go to 5 districts and eliminate the countywide chair position as one measure.
proposal?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense, Chuck. I didn't even think about that. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one
Either
thing
that or you put one on 20. But if you
yeah,
don't, the thing is if we don't put the requests for 5 districts on this ballot, then you would have a redistricting committee that's working on 4 districts. If we put it on this ballot, then you have a redistricting committee that has been given a mandate or whatever, and will be working on 5.
well,
But
I think that's exactly it. If February 2022 is when they're going to start their work,
Right,
they're going to need that direction from the voters then.
right. I agree with that.
and it affects next year's elections because the chair is up for election next year.
Yes. Now, it would be good to have that. Now, the Eileen Quiring O'Brien's position is up for reelection next year, but her term ends at the end of next year. So having, if we know that her position will be eliminated, and we know that before May of 2022, that would give her the ability to run for that 5th position. If indeed, however, the district boundaries work out, that she'd be able to. I know that one of the things that the freeholders did look at was with the existing county commissioners at the time, trying not to district out any of the seated commissioners. So don't put 2 of them in the same district, and then don't create a district where they're in now, but they won't be in any district. So I think that's something that would probably also need to be taken a look at is with the boundaries is, are we creating, for example, when I'm going to stop sharing this and pull that map back up.
You could put
When I-
something in, if that ends up being a problem, when we look at counselors now, could you put in something like a grandfather clause? Those at the time of this, but then those that are finishing out their term can maintain their position as we transition to 5 districts.
Well, I think in the case of who's up for reelection next year, I think it's Temple Lentz who's in current District 1, and the new District 1, she'd still be in it, so that would be okay. Julie
Olson, yeah.
would be
'Cause
districted out.
Yeah.
She would be in this new green district. Well, I don't recall where Gary Medvigi lives. Whether he's in the green or the purple. But he is District 4, so he's in one or the other. And Eileen Quiring O'Brien lives, I believe, in the purple. The blue district is another interesting one because Karen Bowerman I don't know if she would live in the boundaries of this new blue district. She's in District 3. So that's the other thing, is she's not up for reelection next year. And that's part of the dynamics of this redistricting is, do we want to keep in mind those who are hold the current seats? Do we work the district boundaries around that, or do we just not care and basically throw everybody into a reelection next year?
I mean, I just don't think it should. What matters is that there's good representation, like there's good division of the people, more so than where current people elected are. But that's really, I guess, probably up to the redistricting committee in the long run, like how they want to kind of figure it out. But I mean, honestly,
So-
I don't care. I want to see better representation. So if they all get districted out, it's not a huge, you know, burden.
thing
I
I like-
agree. I think that, you know, when we had when you have the discussion about whether to have district representation, it is true district representation. It's having where you live and the people that you in your immediate community having a voice, right? So having people redistrict out that's not a real concern for me. I know, you know.
They can run for the seat that they are now,
Yeah,
in.
sitting up.
and
Yeah.
and there's going to be state congressional representatives next year are going to have that issue, because while Oregon's going to gain a seat, there are some states like California, they're going to lose a seat or two. And so somebody is going to be out of a seat no matter what.
I know. So
that's going to be
we can't
interesting
make
how that happens.
decisions based on
Yeah.
people or
So
personality.
the thing I like about this 5-district, at least this map, as I've stated, and you know, my concern is I think we've got an underrepresentation of North Clark County and rural Clark County with the way things are the way they are now. That green kind of does both. It creates one that is North Clark County, but a good part of that district is rural. So I think something like this, it might not, even if it's not quite like this, if it's something like this, that would at least address my concern about the underrepresentation of North and rural Clark County.
I like that map too as well, because then the blue there, that district would now be District 3, would be representative of like Fourth Plain District, and that would kind of split up that
Let me see if I can zoom in.
heavily populated area into like 2 different.
Yeah, because that was one of the other concerns I had, and I know others have had, is that right now you've got Vancouver in one maybe, well, part of or all of one, but part of District 3. So you'd still have 2 districts that represent the city of Vancouver, but you also now have the area. What is that? This is that 162nd, 164th.
Are you talking about the blue district? This
Yeah.
is like the whole like Fourth Plain District. It's pretty heavily it's really heavily populated. That's where Southwest Medical Center is. That's and it's
Actually, Southwest Washington Medical Center stays in that orange district.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like that's the 205 that is the
205,
boundary.
And then it looks like 164th is the other
Yeah.
boundaries. It's really a tiny district. But it's
Yeah.
just really populated.
Yeah, I'm not sure how accurate like this would even be anymore. I'm thinking because Battlegrounds had so much growth.
Well, in Ridgefield, so a
And
lot
Ridgefield.
of this area in the green has just grown tremendously.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking The one thing I don't like about the blue is I think it's just too small. I think it's just so,
You may be right there.
because you've got City of Vancouver now would be
Did
in,
you run out of ink, hun? Oh,
the what?
I was talking to my husband. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was calling you hun.
Because you have, under this scenario, you actually have 3 districts that cover the City of Vancouver.
Mhm.
And so you could end up with 3 City of Vancouver residents on the county council.
Yeah, but I agree with you guys. I think that this probably is going to look a lot different than it did when they did it. Just because the whole Salmon Creek area and everything is just has just grown so much. So that made that, and there's so much growth right at the top of that blue area.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you look at the way we're set up now, and I'm looking at the district map now, Battleground and Ridgefield are not in the same district now, right? One's
No,
District 2 and
2 and
one's
4.
District
Mhm.
4. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's going to look like this because there's been so much growth in those 2 areas that Battleground may stay in 4. You know what I mean? Because that would make that green area really highly populated.
Well, 4
Anyway.
right now is essentially the eastern half of the green and all the
Right,
purple. I mean, that's a big district.
right.
Even this new green district is pretty big.
So how do we go about getting GIS to put a map together for us? I think
So
that's key, right?
what I'll do is after we're done here, I'm going to send an email to Kathleen Otto, and that would include a request of GIS and the elections office to provide us a prototype or an updated prototype of a 5-district map. It would also include the question of whether or not we would need to include a formal 5-district map as part of the ballot measure. And then the third question is, how does this district map work with the redistricting committee and their work, which would be in 2022?
That sounds
So,
like a great plan. Yeah. And
so I'll
and
copy you and I'll copy Christine Otto. And
thank you.
so we'll let the county manager's office work that coordination.
Okay. Great.
In the meantime, what I'll do is I'll also send a markup of what we've been working on to Kelsey Potter, representing the chair committee, and note that we see some overlap between our 2 issues, and ask her if she'd like to coordinate with us, or they'd like to coordinate with us on how this comes out. It's probably easier than I'm thinking it is to do one measure that essentially eliminates the countywide chair, creates a 5th geographic district, and then changes the language to have the council elect their own chair, whatever length of term that they come up with.
Can you
And oh, I was just going to say really quick, I just got done uploading the council chair position subcommittee meeting to the website. I
Oh.
know Kelsey will definitely have, information for you and whatnot, but it takes me a few hours to convert the videos. But once I do, I try to post them online. So
Okay.
I did get that one from their noon meeting posted.
All right. That's the
If
video.
anyone wanted to hear, yeah.
All right.
Okay. And then could you, Chuck, could you also send her, and I think I mentioned this, could you send her the copy of the comparison on the appointments of 1 year?
Oh, yes.
On most of the
Yes.
charters. And
I will do that.
because I know we had conversation around rotating and 2-year terms and and then, you know, then I think we talked about it for a while, and then everybody's like, well, maybe we can't dictate that much to them. You know, it's like, I mean, people can always be appointed, you know, like 2 years in a row,
Right.
you know. But
All right.
I mean, I thought it was really eye-opening when I saw all of the home rule charters that did that.
Yeah,
And
we're
I
the
thought it
only
was also
county
really
that,
eye-opening that we're one of the few charters that has an elected county chair. You know,
we're
everybody
the
else,
only one.
they're the only one. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Seems so pointless. I'm like, countywide election for chair just seems like the only thing it's doing right now is just making sure that the chair basically comes from the 3rd and 4th district because of the way that the
Right.
elections happen. So
Yeah, and so I
Every one
think
of
that
my
would,
every one of my constituents I talk to about, they're like, what? Why are we doing that? You know, it's like, okay. So
yeah, I'm like, I don't think it really serves a purpose at all. Hopefully we can convince people to just adopt a 5th district and let them
well,
figure out
and
who facilitates meetings. Like
you'll
it's
get
not,
some
Right.
pushback from the incumbent, and you'll get
Mhm.
some pushback from others who think there still should be some type of county-wide representative position, and that's where the freeholders went with this. It was the reason you don't see a 5-district proposal from the freeholders is because they felt that there needed to be somebody to bring things back countywide, because the fear was everybody would fend for their own district and nobody would be looking out for the entire county as a whole. And so that will probably be something that you hear about is, well, how are somebody in District 2 going to care about what happens in Yackle or Eastern Clark County? So that'll be something we'll need to talk
such a
about
weird way
later
to
this
think
summer.
about things.
I
Like
know.
I care about what happens across the street. Like I don't know why I wouldn't care about what happens like
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
across the
I think
county.
that's an easy
Mhm.
an easy question to answer. Yeah.
Well, I think our
I like hiking a lot in East and North County. So like I probably care more about East and North County than I do my own district.
Yeah.
well,
Just fill my potholes. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
Just fill the potholes.
I don't think we can do much
Mhm.
more today. I think what this is telling us is we probably need to hear back on Wednesday from the other subcommittees, and then my guess is we'll want to have another meeting of our group next week. And I could send out a doodle poll tonight, trying to find something next week, or we can just wait until Wednesday's full charter commission meeting and then decide what we want to do after that. What's your preference?
We can wait until next meeting, I think, and then kind of figure it out from there.
I'm going
I
to be in
think it's
San
going to take.
Francisco, but I still can get online.
Why don't we just relocate our
That's the
meeting to San
beauty of
Francisco?
this. I'm going to see my daughter. I haven't seen her in so long.
Oh, well, that's good. Great.
Yeah, over a year.
Yeah, I hear you. We're trying to set up reunions with family members too, now that we're fully vaccinated, and it's like, oh, how do we do this?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's good because it's probably going to take a little while to get answers to our questions. And so I think let's see what we get. And then we'll schedule something probably 2 to 3 weeks out. I don't think we're under the gun for anything right now.
I know. And Chuck, I think that actually writing the language will, for this particular, like, you know, moving to 5 district will be actually that hard, like the actual writing the language. I mean, you've done a lot of work already that we can work from. So I think just having those maps and looking at that is key. And then after that, it'll go very quickly, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the easy part is the language. I think the difficult part is how all the pieces fit together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
All right.
advocating. trying to
Yes.
get
Yeah.
this stuff passed. Like that's the really
Yeah.
difficult part. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the language should be pretty easy. And the hard part is if we do want to try to figure out some language that triggers a redistricting outside of the census, because I think that's kind of like, well, how do we handle growth in the county if the next redistricting isn't for another 10 years?
So
Well,
I really
yeah.
talked to, oh, sorry. I did just on that, Dorothy, I did like,
Mhm.
you know, when Christine Cook sent her legal opinion about that. And then I talked to Chuck about it as well. Is like, can we put in something that triggers? Can we legally do that without a vote of the people? You know, like, can there be actually something in there to trigger something without having
And
people voting on
I
it?
actually did, after we had that discussion, I did send Christine Cook that email asking that question. I have not
Mhm.
heard back. So it's
Okay.
one of the other, do we have any way to do a feature trigger, which is essentially what that would be?
Mhm. The other option is just exploring the idea of just changing the next charter review to 5 years, which then eliminates having to put in that language and just letting the next charter review commission deal with the growth.
Mm-hmm.
I just like we got so out of like evenness so quickly between when we adopted the charter and got our districts to when just we were elected. Like
Right.
I know like more people voted for us in District 2 than they did like in District 1. Like there were more voters. So obviously
Well,
you can see the shift in the growth.
our district also has, tends to be 3 of the 5 points higher in terms of voter turnout than other districts. It's always been that way. Ridgefield especially has had the highest, in the school districts, had the highest voter turnout of any of the districts in the county.
I agree.
Um,
That's why I think the whole there's so many things I would feel a lot better about. So some of the decisions we're making, if and some of the things that we're proposing, if we put that language in about having a charter review in 5 years or less. 10 years is just way too long. I mean,
Yeah.
think about what was going on in 2011. It's like, oh my God, can you imagine? What do we know?
So
What
long ago.
I have no idea what the population was in 2011, but I'm sure it was like way different.
Well, I can tell you when I moved here in 92 and became the county's transportation manager, there were 238,000 people. And in that 29 years, we've doubled, more than
Wow.
doubled.
Yeah. So, and I like it. And it really kind of came home to me when Dorothy, when you said like, we are over 100,000 people per district. And then when I started looking at the populations of the other charter reviews that Chuck sent out and looking at like what their populations, until you get to like, huge counties like King, everybody's seems to be under that 100,000, and that seems to be, and going over that, and having us at 127,000, that's like, oh, yeah, we have to kind of stop that, or at least fix that.
It's not good. It's not good. Like we don't, you can't even like you look at congressional districts, like the reason why most of us don't feel represented is the fact that they're representing almost 700,000 people at this point. Like you can't even understand the needs of that many people.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Like
and
it's ridiculous.
I feel really good about what we're doing, and thank you guys for helping with that.
All right. I think we're done. So are we okay adjourning the meeting?
Yes. I motion we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second. All right. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Christina, for recording and monitoring us, and we will see you on Wednesday.
Thank you.